This is my client, Sydney. And we're just going to talk a little bit about what your experience has been moving through this process. So, why don't we start back 8 weeks ago when we first started, how you were feeling, what you were experiencing, and what made you decide to reach out to me and book a session?
Yeah. That seems like honestly forever ago, but when I had reached out, I was experiencing I a few years ago I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. And so definitely felt like I was at like a breaking point with my anxiety. Was waking up in the mornings like full blown anxiety attack and like not having really any explanation as to why. Even when like I'd be in this like really safe, joyous environment. I woke up like on my birthday weekend. I remember like being at like a 10 and like I had no explanation of like why. I was like surrounded by all these people I loved, like was in a safe place and like still was feeling these really intense symptoms of anxiety. And so definitely like the physical symptoms, I would like often times like feel my heart rate, increase, be short of breath, feel like my body was going numb, and like wouldn't be able to control that for like extended periods of time. So like usually hours. And I'm pretty like familiar with like the easiest or what I was told was like the easiest way to like come down from an anxiety attack, which is like breathe like deep breathing and like things like that. And so like I would be like deep breathing for like hours, like just trying to like make it through. But I think like August and September, like really, well, I would say like really August was like a kind of a moment for me that I was like, this is not going away. And it was like extended periods of anxiety, which have happened before for me, but usually, um, like I didn't feel like there was a reason. And so I did feel like it was getting a little bit out of control. And I was really just moving through the motions of like day to day with these anxiety attacks and felt like that was normal or becoming my normal. So I did feel like I was hitting a breaking point when I had reached out.
Yeah, it drives me insane when people just say, like, just breathe through panic attack. Like, that's not
Yep.
it's not gonna, like, really get you out of it. So yeah, so tell me a little bit about your symptoms that you had. So, like, what were the actual physical sensations you were feeling in your body?
So like I would feel like intense tingling like everywhere. Like all over my arms, all over my legs, and it would like just like be this surge of like tingling like that I could not control. If it was for extended periods of time, like I'd get really bad stomach aches. And have like really bad stomach pain, and feel like intense nausea. I was also experiencing like dizzy spells because like as I've learned, I was holding my breath. And so like although I would feel short of breath too. So I would feel like I couldn't breathe. And I would oftentimes like try and check that I was like still breathing. Um, and I'm trying to think of anything else. Those are like the main ones for sure.
Yeah, that's a lot. You mentioned that you had learned, like, to breathe through a panic or an anxiety attack. What had you tried in the past to overcome this?
Yeah. So I had gone through talk therapy for a good amount of time. I think it was like a year trying to work through some of the trauma that led to these really extreme periods of anxiety for me. And some of the tools that I was shared with was breathe, like deep breathing. They shared that this is the quickest way to get out of an anxiety attack is deep breathing. Moving my body, like going outside and like walking stairs, and like trying to focus on like something else. And so, definitely, had been trying to manage. And I, this, like, I do a lot of yoga. And so, like, I would, I'm pretty familiar with like breathing and like moving my body, but even with that, like I felt like, why isn't this working still? And so actually, I had in especially this summer, like when my anxiety was so high, like I had been using CBD oil to get me out of my anxiety attacks the quickest. Which I think CBD is like a great, supplement. It has a lot of healing properties, but I was like, I shouldn't have to be using this every single day. In order to not experience anxiety. So I was for sure at like that breaking point. But I also do like acupuncture. So I was going to my acupuncturist for anxiety and like realignment and things like that. But really, talk therapy was like the biggest kind of leap that I've tried to address my anxiety specifically.
Yeah, so that's like a lot. So you tried a lot before coming to hypnotherapy and coaching and working with me, but you were still feeling the symptoms 9 out of 10 is what you were
Yeah,
saying?
for sure. Yeah, like I like to put numbers to it. So like I like a really bad worst anxiety attack would be at a 10, and like oftentimes I'd be waking up in the morning at like a 9. Like a 9.5. And just like from sleep, which is supposed to be like my most relaxed state. And then I just like wake up like, cool, here we are again. Like, and it was like weeks and like weeks of that. And I'd only have like relief like every few days where it'd like go down to like a 5 and I'd be like, "Oh, thank goodness." Um, and then it would just creep back up.
How did that affect your life? Because if you're waking up daily, like at almost a full-blown panic attack, like that's a lot to be carrying.
Oh
So
my gosh.
was it?
Yeah. I was exhausted. Like, and I remember actually talking to someone about it right before I started this process, of just like explaining like that I was at my breaking point. And I remember him saying like, but like I feel like I don't like see you, like you don't seem like you're like having all these like issues. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm super high functioning, like I've been through a lot, I'm like super resilient, but it doesn't mean like I want to sit and like go through life like this, like, like I shouldn't be like every single day having like a panic attack. And yeah, I was just, definitely at a point of breaking for sure.
Had you heard about hypnosis or like hypnosis for anxiety before you found me?
I had not heard about it in like treating anxiety. I think I had seen, typical things in like the media, like related to hypnosis, like the little like, pendulum swinging back and forth. I think I had like heard it was helpful in like quitting smoking, things like that. But that was like about it,
Yeah.
like nothing else. And it truly, I mean, like, and I had been to like, festivals or fairs where they were like hypnosis shows or whatever. And like I'd be like, whoa, like that's interesting. But like I was like, but is this real? Is it real though?
Is this real? Yeah, yeah, that makes sense, and I think, like, that's
Yeah.
most people's experience, right? Like, we see the, like, old man with, like, a pocket watch in a movie or, like,
Yep.
in
Yeah.
Get Out with the tea, or we see those, like,
Mm-hmm.
hypnosis stage shows where people are, like, quacking like ducks and stuff, and they're just like, "What
Yep.
is
Yeah.
this?" But yeah, okay, so you had kind of, like, a mainstream, like, idea of what hypnosis would be like. How different was it when we actually started working like, compared to what your perception was before?
Oh, it was like completely different. Like, I mean, I was willing to try anything at the point where I was, but I was like, I don't know, like, am I gonna feel like I'm asleep? Like, will I be awake? Like, will I just be able to do anything? Like, could like she tell me to like walk out the door? Like, I don't know. Like, I really did not know what to expect. And then it was so different. Really, we would start off with checking in, talking about things that I was doing for homework, and then what I was experiencing that week. And then have this really awesome, beautiful, calming hypnosis session of just really intense relaxation and quietness. Eventually, at the beginning, I was still way in my overthinking. But by the end, they were just like these beautiful nuggets of the week.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I feel like when I look at back at our work together, you had what I would call, like for me, a very typical process of when you have anxiety and when we're
Yeah.
like unlearning the anxiety or creating that freedom and that peace and that ease instead of the anxiety in the hypnosis, which is like in the beginning people's minds are so overwhelmed, like you've been in survival mode for so long, your
Hmm.
thoughts are racing, you're overthinking, and you just are like, am I even going to be able to shut up my mind for this
Yep.
30 minutes or this hour or whatever. And then as like time goes on, right, like you just find it easier and easier and easier to go in that and your mind becomes more clear. Is that kind of what you experienced?
Oh, definitely. Like at the beginning, as you know, I was still doing pretty intense body checking. So, like, even in that first hypnosis session, I remember like constantly thinking, like about my breath and just like whether I would like stop breathing or not, and like checking on like my breath in my throat constantly at the beginning, um and not really being able to like turn off like all of the thoughts in my mind. And then by the end, like it was like quite immediate of like my relaxation. Like I'd literally, the minute you would start talking and put the music on, I'd be like, just like it was just like so immediate. Even to the, I mean, part of my anxiety was it manifested in like insomnia. And so I'd have like a lot of trouble sleeping. And I remember maybe like, I don't know, halfway through our process, I was with some family and we were going out for an evening, and I was like super tired, and usually I can never take naps because like I can barely sleep at night. Like I'm never gonna be able to take a nap. And I remember I was like, oh, I'm gonna try and take a nap in the car. And I was like, it's such a weird that I'm never gonna be able to take a nap. And then literally in seconds, like I was like it was just so weird because it felt like to me, I was like, dang, this I felt like it was hypnosis. I was like, whoa.
You like let
Um,
yourself
but
go
yeah,
in.
I know.
Love.
And I remember someone like making fun of me and waking me up, and I was like, I was in my beautiful hypnosis. I don't know why you woke me up.
Love
But
that.
yeah, definitely more immediate by the end.
Yeah, I think also like the whole progression of like when you work through anxiety with hypnosis, the things that I typically see is like exactly what happened with you as well. Like we start loosening that grip in the hypnosis sessions. You start realizing like, oh, I can be relaxed. Oh, I can't. It's safe for me to relax. It's safe for me to
Hmm.
let go. And I remember
Yeah.
you had such a big fear of like letting go of control and
Oh
like,
my
am
gosh.
I even going to be able to let go of control? And what does that even mean? Like, what will my life look like if it's that? And
Yep.
that is one of the things that I work on a lot with people. And you did so amazing. Like, you just did. Oh, I just wish I could send you like 30,000 gold stars. Like, you did so amazing. And in really like facing that fear. And
Yeah.
I kind of want to know because we had those like steps where it was just like, okay, now we're starting to let go, now we're starting to release. And I'm talking about outside of the hypnosis because I give you
Hmm.
so much homework, right? Like I'm a
Yeah.
homework queen. um,
Yep, I love the homework.
yes, the homework's really good. So you were doing the homework and we would notice like all the changes that were happening with you. And then you had to let go of like your identity around having anxiety and let
Yep.
go of the like constant checking for that feeling when that feeling was gone. So tell me a little bit about
Hmm. Yeah, I remember in our first session, you saying like the biggest thing, to like help through this process is like you're gonna have to let go. And in my head, I was like, well, like I don't know if we're gonna like have much success because I literally hold on to everything. So like letting go is the hardest process. And yeah, it was, fear of like like who even am I without anxiety? Because it's like so ingrained into my personality. Had felt that it was like really part of who I am. And in a lot of like the talk therapy I did, it was like focused on coming to terms on that, like, this is a part of me, that this trauma happened to me. And now the anxiety's here, and I should reframe it that, like, this is like the new version of me, And so, like, when the anxiety started to, like, no longer be there, I was like, who am I even without this? Like, oftentimes in the work that I do, like, we'll do like really vulnerable introductions, and like, I'll share with like some of my students, like, oh yeah, like, I have anxiety. And I remember just a couple weeks ago doing an introduction, and I was like, I can't even say that anymore because, like, I don't have it. So, like, I don't know. It's like truly, like, it was a kind of shock of like, okay, well, who am I without this? And then, working through the fear of like, is it all going to come back? You know,
Yeah.
like any small, step back, I was like, oh no, like like nothing's gonna work, and I'm just gonna have to start from square one again. And this anxiety is gonna be here. But you were always really reassuring that it's, never gonna go back to the way it was, and it hasn't. And having faith in that. But I mean, it's one of the things that drew me to this process in the first place, because in that first kind of discovery session, I remember sharing about my anxiety, and I had said something along the lines of like, it's really like, how do I live with this? Like, coming to terms with like, this is going to be a part of like my day to day. How do I just manage it? And I remember you saying to me, like, I know, like, that's what you've been told, but I'm telling you, you don't have to live like this. And I was like, so skeptical. I was like, one, I've never heard that before. And
Yeah.
I was like, because whenever I like talk to any sort of like, therapist, healthcare professional about my anxiety, it's always about managing it, not like that it's just going to go away one day. And so I was definitely skeptical, and then holding on to that fear throughout the process, but eventually being able to let go, which I think has been a good process for me. And I can't wait to let go of so many other things in my life
Yes.
now.
Oh my gosh, I love that you just said that. Yes, let it go.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, like literally.
yeah, that's like that, and like just breathe through your panic attacks. The telling people like, "Oh, you're just gonna have anxiety forever now," um, drives me absolutely insane
Mhm.
because that was me. Like, for anyone who's like watching this, like I had such severe panic attacks, such severe. I was literally bedridden for like 3 months with like 24/7 palpitations, and people around me were like, "Oh, well, just that's gonna be your life," and I was like, "This life is not worth living. Like, it's not
Yes.
if I'm gonna wake
Mhm.
up every day of my life with a panic attack." Um,
Yep.
and why don't you tell me where you're at now? Because you've had such a huge shift. So, all your past people that were like, you'll never overcome this,
Yep.
where are you at now with all of it?
Jokes on them,
Yes.
because I definitely have overcome this. Yeah, my day to day looks drastically different of what it was looking like. I don't wake up with anxiety. I have not felt a 10 symptom of anxiety since we started. Like, I haven't even felt really anything above a 5, and it was only really once that that 5 happened during the process. And since then, like, like nothing. Um, I have had like moments, and like, it was really like relearning like what like an anxious feeling is versus like a normal person's anxious feeling, and then like what my anxiety was. And like, it's really been an interesting experience of like, oh, like, having a feeling of being anxious and then it going away and being like, wow, this is must be how normal people feel all the time. Like, when they hear bad news, or like, discover something that upsets them or whatever, and they don't have to spiral for hours in an anxiety attack. It's really just like a moment of like, oh no, and then it's like gone. So that has definitely changed. I'd also say like, one of the symptoms of my anxiety was like intense overthinking and just like not being able to come out of like these really deep thought spirals, which was oftentimes the things that would keep me awake at night. And that has like completely gone away of just like, I don't even in scenarios that I would compare back to like before of like, oh, I would be thinking of every single type of thing that could go wrong in this instant. Like I've had those like moments that where that would occur and it's just like no longer there, which is like I can think back to when I was a child and not being able to control my overthinking. And so like that's wild that that is like gone. And so that's been a huge shift as well. My sleep's improved. I've had like I've like I can't even remember when I've been able to like sleep through the entire night. Like that hasn't happened in years. And like that's happened more often during in this process. It just happened a couple nights ago, where I just slept through the entire night and it was fine. And like at nighttime was oftentimes when I would get like anxiety attacks because I couldn't go to sleep and then the thought spirals and all of that. And even when I have woken up, like the anxiety hasn't been there. And so my sleep has definitely been, assisted through all of this too.
Yeah, that's what I love about this as well is like our everything is connected. Like our sleep affects our hunger and our metabolism, which affects our mood, which affect like everything is
Yeah.
connected. And the same thing is like when you do work in hypnotherapy, everything is connected. So even though we're working on this one thing, it's going to touch other parts of your life and other like points of
Yeah.
your life will be affected. So
Mhm.
love
Yeah, and
that.
at the beginning of this, I had felt like my anxiety was keeping me from accessing, like, being happy, and, like, having, like, these happy moments, and I definitely feel like now that it's gone, like, I've been more and more being able to tap into this joy and happiness that I just like wasn't able to experience before. Probably because I was so freaking exhausted. Like my body was just like tired. Like,
Yeah, that's real. So what kind of thoughts come to you if like you were to talk about your experience with someone or someone who was interested in hypnosis but had seen the pocket watch and had seen the like people quacking like a duck or whatever,
yeah.
what would you say to them about starting this experience?
I would definitely say that one, I feel like what you provide is like super unique because it is, it's the hypnosis, which is really healing, but it's also like the coaching and like building capacity to like handle scenarios and make like real change. And so I do think it's like a very unique experience. And I've already had people like reach out because like I people can sense like a shift in me and that like I don't know, like I don't feel like I look different or like I'm like acting like super different, but like people just have like been like, what are you doing? Like what is this? And so I've shared and like yeah, definitely I feel like most people think of hypnosis and like, pocket watch. But it's definitely not that. And I feel like if there's, like, a roadblock or barrier that anyone is experiencing, like, this would be helpful. Like, I don't see, like, any scenarios that this wouldn't be able to, like, assist with, but with, like, anxiety in particular, like, I know a lot of, like, friends and, like, have, had this community of almost, like, anxiety people that, like, I would lean on, but also they would lean on me because we'd have this common experience to talk about, and, like, my biggest thing is like people don't have to live like that. They don't have to live in like constant anxiousness and like anxiety, especially when it's out of control. Like it it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. And I think that's such a huge thing is like because we get told all the time, oh, once you have a panic attack, like you'll never not have panic attacks, or like once you have anxiety
Mhm.
you can only take medication. There's no other route out. Like there's nothing you can
Yep.
do. And it's just not true. And I just love that you have so much more space now in your mind, in your life to like be happy.
Yes.
You no longer have
Yes.
that
Me
like
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love. What do you feel like was the most important thing, like, out of all the things you've accomplished through this process, what do you think is the most important thing that you achieved?
Ugh, I just honestly, I don't know if I could just pick one because, like, I feel like so many of the things when we talked about this in my last session of just like, there's been like even some of just like the skills that you've taught me and like retraining like thoughts and stuff like that. I hadn't even had it on like my radar, but like the impact like it has been like huge of just like the neuro pathway training and like all of that. And it's like I would say like obviously the biggest like change is like not having, disordered anxiety anymore.
Yeah.
But like there's literally like so much more that like my sleep, my thought process, like, and I've said this to you. I did not really identify, and I don't even know if I do now, but like as like a positive person, I'm definitely more of like a realistic person, but like I have like found myself like being like going to positive thoughts like immediately, or in conversations being like, well, what about this though? Like this is equally as possible, and I'm like, who am I? Like, just who is that? Who's that girl? Because like that has been a huge shift too of just like like, and that would be the beginning of like my overthinking, of just like, well, this is could totally happen, and then like boom, 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 and I feel like that just doesn't happen anymore. And so for sure has been a huge change in so many different levels.
I'm so freaking proud of you. And I know I've said that to you like a million times already, but I'm so proud of you. You just absolutely kicked ass through this whole process. You really did all the work, and like your results are really a testament of that and of how much you cared and like loved yourself to go through this process, not knowing and like being a little skeptical and like just jumping in with both feet and trying everything. And I'm just so happy for you and I'm so excited for your future.
Thank you. I'm excited too. I honestly like this process like couldn't have come at a better time. Like, and I mean, I had always been like a firm believer that like, an investment in yourself is never a bad idea, but like truly like this has been out of all the investments I've given myself, this has been the most life-changing. And so like truly it's been a beautiful experience, and it was a journey, and I can't believe that I'm here. I can't believe it's over. It makes me
I know.
sad, but it also means that like I've moved past like my anxiety, so it's like also good. So
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's gonna help so many people.
yay.